What's going on? What's going on YouTube? Daniel back here for another video for the channel. So as you can see, I am in my room, and yes, that is the Argentina winning World Cup jersey. But I am Argentinian. But if you're new to the channel, my name is Daniel. I help people with using nutrition, what I've learned over the past 8 years, reversing my psoriasis, to help people unlock their peak vitality, energy, and also live independent of the healthcare system and trusting doctors for their health. So for this video, I want to touch on something that I actually went through this morning, and it was the first time I would say this actually happened as strongly as it did. And essentially what happened was I just basically woke up and was like unmotivated, super unmotivated, didn't want to wake up. And also like very directionless, like basically like in a fog, a huge fog, and was basically just didn't know what to do, whether to go back to sleep or like continue with it. I basically didn't know how to like start the day, right? And like usually when I wake up, I have more or less my routine. Like it was there, but it was very foggy. And basically, I pushed myself through it. Thankfully, I posted a story as well on my Instagram about it. But essentially, I went through a checklist, and this is something that will help you if you are watching and going through your journey with healing. This, I believe, this happened many times when I was going through my journey of just doubting a lot of what I was doing, if it's the right thing to do, and you know, not really seeing the goal essentially. But what I did was there was three things you have to do, and number one is gratitude. So one thing you have to be doing is always be grateful for where you're at. I feel like a lot of people, are always looking for the next thing, like, what am I looking to accomplish? What's the next thing? But you always basically don't stop and understand and think about where you are now, and the person you were 3 months ago would be so happy to be where you are now, or maybe even, longer, like, 6 months, a year. But essentially you don't understand the progress and your steps you're making, and this basically just makes you always looking ahead and not really smelling the roses. So that's the first thing you have to do, is usually, you're not grateful enough in the moment, and that's why you're essentially having this basically like fog or like haze of like where you're going, because you could say you've already hit your goal, from 3 months ago, but you're just looking forward and always thinking like, what's the next one, what's the next thing, and instead of realizing that you are in the next thing, and you know whatever happens or whatever you achieve afterwards is just more, adding more to the story. So that's number one thing. Number two is understanding that in in a obviously compassionate way, that you know most of life isn't really about you. Obviously you have your goals and aspirations, but you're like a small dot in basically the dent of the universe, and there's so many different things that you're meant to do for the universe, and not just for your own wants and needs. And essentially it's being able to understand how you can be of service for other people, and basically using the law of giving to receive. So, if you do want something, maybe it's a goal you have, in order to receive that goal, you have to give something first. So it's always thinking about, that law, the law, spiritual law, giving and receiving, and essentially understanding that, you know, you're always thinking me is basically what leads to a lot of different, you can say, mental ailments. So like number one cause for depression is basically just selfish thinking, like thinking, oh, why me, like, this is happening, start to create problems, and basically you're just in your head, and you're not really living outwardly. So that's one thing that you know is probably a sign of what's happening. You're just living too inwardly, not thinking outside of yourself. So what you can do for somebody, what you have to do, to achieve your goals, which is what you have to give to receive. And putting yourself in empathetic mindset of like, how can I help another person? um, what am I here to do? Stuff like that. So asking yourself questions that are outward and not thinking so inwardly, and that will basically help to like shift your thinking and remove that fog or that thing you have, and just realizing that there's a bigger picture as opposed to what you're going through. And third would be clarity. So this is something that I learned actually before the year ended, from a couple of mentors, and I think it's huge. And essentially, it's actual clarity on what you want. So I made a video about this at the start of the year, but it's a lot of people just have like general goals of like, oh, I want this amount of money, or I want to lose this much weight, or I want to, be in a relationship, but like you don't understand why. You haven't gone through the 5 why method. It's I think it's by a Japanese, you could say philosopher or something like that. But basically, asking yourself why and really uncovering why you want something. And if it's, let's say, amount of money, like why do you want that money? Is it to travel? Is it to provide for more people, and maybe in your family? Is it to have the ability to, you know, I don't know, find a partner, live in a better neighborhood? Like you have to understand why the reason is, and you ask yourself again, what's the why behind that, and then you really get to the core reason of why you want something, and that's just huge. And that just becomes your basically pillar as to why you want something, and that just gives you ultimate clarity as to why you're waking up every day, why you're putting in the action to do something, and in this case, healing yourself, and why you're stuck on that journey of using nutrition to heal yourself. So this is something, like I said, it's going to go happen to you many times, especially when you're in the phase of doubt or uncertainty, which is most of the journey in the beginning, especially when you're not seeing results and you have people against you, um, and what you're doing. Then you have to really use this framework always and just have it in the back of your mind, asking yourself, am I being ungrateful? Am I being unselfish? And do I have actual clarity of what I want, behind my goal? And then if you do those 3 things, usually it'll start with gratitude. Probably clear that. If not, it'll be selfishness. And then, if it doesn't clear that either, then it'll be clarity. So the 3 things you have to ask yourself, and if you do that, I promise, you'll be able to shift back to where you have to go. Aim the ship, or the plane in the direction you want to go, and then you can go from there. So if this video helps you, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. As well, comment if you have a different checklist in terms of those days of fog, or not knowing essentially where to go, like which way is left, which way is right, and understanding, like when you're in that, what basically system you use or mental checklist that you go through to help you get out of that. So anyways, hope the video helps you. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'll put it in the description below. And other than that, keep killing it.